Or when they fully institute the studio. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Zi-O. I am Vashi V, and joining me today are
Decade.
And Rye. And I don't entirely know if it caught that little thing I said before we officially started, but if it did, yeah. So welcome to Kamen Rider Zi-O, episode 27. We open up with Waz doing his usual recap, but instead of being in his little blackout room, he is doing it in the foreground of Sogo and Gaze fighting, and I was really hoping that at some point Sogo would just stop fighting, turn to Waz, and be like, hey, now is really not the time for this. But he doesn't.
It's okay, we kind of had to get serious this episode, considering what happened at the end of last one.
yeah. I mean, I would have liked that little bit of lightheartedness, but yeah, this ended serious last week, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, stayed.
It wasn't the time for a joke like that, but still, that's all I could think about while I was watching the recap. So, Sogo and Gaze's battle is interrupted by Waz, who feels like White Waz is the only one who would be satisfied with settling things right here prematurely. So he takes Gaze and bails. Yes, he takes Gaze and bails. And he tries warning Gaze about his revive power-up, saying that it seems like it has the power to compress or stretch time, which is how his two forms work. Unfortunately, the drawback is that Gaze's human body can't really handle that, and it will slowly kill him if he abuses it too much.
I thought that was really interesting, because basically what that means is he's not super fast or super strong. He's literally just fucking with time.
Yeah, he's literally just warping time around his body.
And it's killing him, so that's pretty interesting.
Like for me, this was the best way to nerf it. Because as soon as he got it and it was working, he was OP as hell. So having that set to where it nerfed it and kept it basically put it to where it's not the most viable option. Unlike where most power-ups don't really have a drawback. Every once in a while you'll have one from series to series, but none to the point where this will kill you if you continue to use it, you idiot. Also, I do find it a little bit funny that the whole purpose of this was them to come back and do this, but they're not supposed to be fucking with time. Beyond the one change that they're trying to accomplish. And now he is literally fucking with time.
Necessary sacrifices. So the reason why Waz is telling Gaze all this is the same reason why I feel like Waz is the best character on this show. Because even Waz is acknowledging that Sogo and Gaze are friends. And so he understands that Sogo would be upset if Gaze killed himself like this. He questions why Gaze now feels determined to actually kill Sogo, and Gaze explains what he saw in the past, which was Tsukuyomi on the bus shooting her gun at a young, helpless Sogo before dying in the crash. This is great, though. because Waz is turning out in the path that I was hoping he would when this series started, where he's loyal to Sogo. He wants Sogo to become Omazio, but in the end, Sogo is still like the great man that he worships. And so, even though Gaze is literally like trying to kill Sogo, Waz is still reaching out a hand in Sogo's name for his friend.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge contrast from White Waz, who has no problem with kicking Gates' ass. And the little foreshadowing we see later is pretty creepy, as usual.
Like, this is done really, really well. Is like, because up until now, is like Waz is or Black Waz has been kind of, what the fuck are you doing? This is what you're supposed to be doing. Focus. And because initially he was trying to get them to not be friends and to get Sogo away from Gates and Tsukiyomi. So to see that twist shows how, at least at this point in time, through this timeline, that he's gotten close to Sugo and is actually, rather than being that, for lack of a better term, that brainless aide who's just trying to get him to where he should be, he's actually trying, for lack of a better term, becoming friends with Sugo, to the point where he's willing to go, I know this is what I should do. I should fuck you up, but Sugo likes you.
My favorite scene is when Sogo passes his exam, and like he starts telling Waz about it. Like, I got a passing grade. Isn't this great? Because I saw the answers in my vision. And Waz is just like, wow, that's a pretty scattered prophetic ability you have. It's like they're just being friends here. There's no like Lord and Master in that moment.
Which I get how Waz fell into that role with at that point, was because he was all Sugo had at that point, because Tsukiyomi and Gaze have left. And he saw, as I'm looking at it, he saw what that did to Sugo. And I think Waz is realizing that Sugo does need his friends, because I don't think he wants him to be a giant shit dick in the future.
Like, you can see Waz's progress throughout the show. Early on, Waz only appears when he believes it's necessary, or when Sogo unlocks a new form. Then Sogo starts intentionally calling on Waz, and now we're at the point where Waz is just showing up and like basically spending time with him. Like, they went to go watch over another wizard a couple episodes back, and they just went to like the dinner theater together.
Right, it's like they're becoming friends, and it's wonderful to see just how far it could, for a show that hasn't really done much. This is the one thing that they've gotten right so far, in my opinion, that they've got absolutely correct, is the progress between Black Waz and Sugo. Going from that guy who just appears because, hey, you're fucking up, to, sure, I'll go watch some magic with you while we keep an eye on this dude. It's fantastic.
So, the scene between Waz and Gaze ends when Gaze attacks Waz, and Waz is not strong enough to defeat him anymore, unlike he used to be. So Waz has to bail. White Waz then shows up afterwards. To kind of, like, I guess, gloat, I guess. I mean, White Waz doesn't need to be here. Literally. Because for White Waz to exist, Gaze had to have done this on his own once before. White Waz is only here to say he was here and that he helped. And so he is pretty much everything that Black Waz is not. And while at first I thought I would like his character because of the concept, the execution is that he is literally the opposite of everything I like about Black Waz, so I don't like him.
Well, to be fair, I don't think we were ever supposed to like him, which is why he's probably going to get written off.
No, he was always intended to be like an asshole, but I thought that like I would still like his character, just and his role on the show, but I don't.
I like his acting, for sure.
Yeah, his acting is great.
Yeah, he's just a slime ball.
For me, the reason why I like White Waz, beyond his acting, because his acting as White Waz is on point, is I don't feel that that's all he's there for. I don't think he's there just to get Gates to be Gates revive and kick Sugo's ass. He's after other shit. In my firm opinion, because he just seems to carry himself in that whole, yeah, this is not all I'm after. Like, because I firmly, and this is my personal theory on this, is I think he's wanting to do this so he can become a Mazio. It's not the fact that he wants Gates to take out Sugo so they have a big, nice, happy future. I think he wants him to take out I would think he wants Gates to take out Sugo so then he can take out Gates.
And he will be the savior.
Right. That's because that seems to be the way it's headed, with the fact that he's, up until here recently, has been constantly working with the Time Jackers, or at least trying to string them along into completing this plan of his.
Which he said, it's necessary for creating the Gaze Revive Watch. But again, it happened in the original timeline anyways. He didn't need to do anything. He's only doing stuff because he chooses to. So, we get a short scene between Sogo and his uncle, but we're gonna skip over that for now and come back to it later, when the other scene comes into play. So, we're gonna talk about Waz's plan, where he approaches the Time Jackers again. Specifically, Uru and Aura, not Schwartz. Waz recognizes that at this rate, Gaze is going to win and the Gaze Revive timeline is going to come true. But he has a plan to do something about it, but he can't pull it off alone. The Aura doesn't trust him and tells him to piss off. Uru, on the other hand, approaches him alone, saying he's willing to hear him out. As we've seen, Uru has become scared of the Time Jackers. So what do you think about this?
It makes sense that, because obviously Gaze didn't trust Uru. I don't think Sogo and Uru are gonna really work together, so Waz and him, it makes sense, and the plan that they do come up with is pretty smart. So I liked it.
Like, the fact that Waz did this knowing that, and I'm just going to continue to call him because I don't...
Uru, either one.
Because I refuse to deal with the name changes that have gone through with this. But the fact...
Specifically spelling changes.
Yeah, that. Um, I'm I like the fact that Waz was obviously aware enough of what has transpired here recently between the Time Jackers, basically Swartz and the female Time Jacker turning on
Aura.
or to get him to be questionable about what's going on with them, to where he would be more inclined to help Waz, because at least there he would have a clear goal of I'm doing this to do this. You obviously don't want to deal with Gates in the future, so we're going to do this so we can deal with Gates.
The problem with the Time Jackers has been that they haven't gotten any character development. But now is getting that character development, and they're doing some good stuff with it. They're having him question, like, his own role as one of the villains of the show here. And now he doesn't even know who to trust, to the point where he's working with the literal one guy that he's supposed to hate.
And it's wonderful. I think the other issue with the Time Jackers is the fact, despite the fact that they've had no development beyond this right here, even their motives are unclear. It's literally, we just want a new king.
Right, like, a different... Like, they never make it clear if, like, are you trying to, like, create a benign king that won't destroy the world like Omazio did? Are you trying to, like, create a world where that does happen, but you're in charge because you created the king? Which I think is what Schwartz's plan is here.
Right, it's like, but beyond that, there's nothing. It's literally, and this is the problem I have with it, is since the introduction of White Waz and Gates being a savior, at that effective point, what the fuck purpose are the Time Jackers? Because that right there is exactly what their plan was, based on what we know. They wanted a different king. There you go, different king. Considering the fact that they have no understanding of White Waz's future.
But it's not one that they created.
Right, but at that point they have no idea what their roles are in that world.
Right.
It's one of those, it could have been a better role. Now if they could have done this to where, like, once that was introduced, then the Time Jackers got the understanding of that timeline.
Like, this is where developing, like, their actual goal early on would have come into play. This is where, like, maybe a fourth Time Jacker from that other timeline coming into play would have shed some light onto things.
Which actually is still kind of a slight possibility, given the fact of Schwartz's new "I'm just gonna fuck shit up" plan.
Or this could have been his plan all along, based on later things in the episode.
Right. But yeah.
So Hiryu, another Zi-O, hunts down Gaze, as he wants to be the one to defeat Sogo, so he doesn't want a rival in the way. Gaze has no interest in fighting another Zi-O, since his target is the real one, and kicks Hiryu's ass pretty quickly. Approaches Hiryu and strikes him a deal, since he's going to find himself outmatched by the other two. Convinces him to go after the ride watches from the future. So Hiryu ends up going around and creating another riders from the powers that he stole. Sorry, this gets a little weird.
He basically just uses them as grunts to attack White Waz.
That's right. He goes after White Waz with them, to distract him so that he can steal Waz's Mirai watch. So White Waz just writes in his book, like, oh, hey, the Mirai watch returns to Waz. And so it does. And Black Waz jumps in and steals it himself. Because guess what? There are two Wazes.
And he didn't specify, so Waz still got the watch.
The future is unchanged.
That was pretty awesome. And I do like that Hide's sticking around even though he just got owned. We did get to see more of his tragic past. So I like that. And he actually did get one hit off on Shipu, so good job.
Like I'm really wanting him to stick around longer than I think he will. Because beyond where this little arc is headed, I don't see him sticking around after it.
You don't think he'll be on the show after Oma Day?
It maybe that, or he'll do like they would normally do with Ryder, and oh no, I'm a good guy now.
Which means I'm not going to do anything anymore.
Right, it's either I'm not going to do anything, or I'm going to be a good Kamen Rider. Which, again, it's typical, but it's not something that I would actually prefer to see, given the fact that this has been, up until recently, very by the booky. I would like to see something different. Like, I would like him to fulfill the role of, I'm going to be the big bad. Like, I would like that. I would like it set up to where he is, fuck it, I'm Omazio, kick my ass now.
Right now, it looks like we're leading up to Schwartz being the final boss, but for them to, like, pull the rug out into that, like, White Waz takes over in that role, that'd be cool.
Like, I could deal with White Waz or, what's his name? Another writer.
Hiryu.
Yeah, Hiryu. Like, I want to see Hiryu have Schwartz's plan come into fruition in terms of him becoming Omazio, and then him just be a complete shit dick. Like, I kind of want to see that, because obviously we can have based on the way this has played out so far and our knowledge of past Rider and whatnot, the odds of that happening are very slim. But it would be fantastic to watch, in my opinion.
Not every gremlin makes it to the end.
Which still bothers me.
Okay. So the scene I skipped over was Sogo is returning home and he notices a room for rent sign, realizing that the rooms that Tsukuyomi and Gaze were occupying are now open again since they moved out. He questions his uncle about it, who says that, it'll be lonely without them, and it was nice to have the company. Sogo says he's fine because he's always been alone. Later on, Sogo is heading out again, and his uncle stops him, saying that his biggest regret in taking care of Sogo is that he never scolded him. Because Sogo went through the traumatic incident and lost his parents, he did what he thought was right. He gave Sogo his space when necessary, but he tried not to be harsh on him. And he regrets that. Because he saw how happy Sogo was with Tsukuyomi and Gaze around as friends. And so now he's going to scold Sogo. A person who can't say they're lonely when they are will become a king who doesn't understand the pain of others. Sogo should stop lying to himself. And boy, does that just lay it on thick.
Yeah, for sure. That was probably my favorite scene from this episode. As many good scenes as there were. That was awesome. Because we've had kind of mentor characters not used very well in other shows. It's pretty useless. So this was just totally awesome.
Right. The fact that we have basically what would be the quote unquote mentor kind of person that I'm taking care of your people while you're out here dealing with this shit, to literally go, hey, you're being a fucking jackass, is fantastic. And the way it's handled is fantastic. Because if you look at it from the point of view of how did he become Omazio, we have our answer. Because going off of the original timeline, Waz Tsukiyomi Gates never showed up. So he stayed alone. And lied and continued to lie to himself, saying this was fine, so he grew to be a king who didn't understand this. And didn't understand true, honest feelings and how to react to him, how to respond to him. It led him to be Omazio. So we have the switch. And
Right.
in this particular case, it's been flipped the other way. So as I look at it, the catalyst that he had to become Omazio, he no longer has. So for him to become Omazio now, there has to be another trigger. Which I'm sure there will be at some point because, come on, it's Rider. But the way his uncle explained all this is fantastic. Because anybody who's had family members, friends, or anything who's gone through something extremely traumatic, you don't want to be an asshole. You want to let whoever it is try to deal with it how they deal with it. And if it means letting your friends lie to themselves, you're more apt to do so because it's the pity card. It's like you don't want to make them feel bad because they're feeling bad about this. So you have that, most people have that mindset of, if I say anything about this, then I'm the bad guy. Because I'm adding on to it, when in reality it's, you're trying to break that cycle. And it's perfectly worded of, I understand, because he basically goes, I understand where I screwed up, and I'm fixing it now. And the fact that Sugo more or less accepted it, at least I'm just going to say he accepted it, because it was kind of hard to tell, because it's fucking Sugo, is a nice touch.
Like, I've mentioned multiple times, I want to know what tempts Sogo to become a Demon King. I want to know why he becomes evil. And this whole time, like, part of the reason we weren't seeing that is because he was already being pushed away from that timeline just because Tsukuyomi and Gaze were there to be his friends. Omazio doesn't have friends. It's probably not the only reason he became Omazio, but it's the biggest reason why we're not seeing why he became Omazio.
Right, because that was one of our biggest gripes, is like, we had nothing that showed, hey, this is a possibility. Because all we've seen is, no, I want to help this person, I want to help this person, I want to help this person. Because that's all he's done.
And Tsukuyomi and Gaze have supported him on that.
Exactly. So, I kind of have to retcon my earlier comments about this show kind of being shitty when it comes to this. Because, well, yes, we all had our issues with that. Because it wasn't clear what did it. It's now we had that. Okay, now I kind of see what that was all about. So it changes how you look at everything that's happened so far, which I get isn't much considering this is just one aspect of several problems that we've had so far. It shows that they at least put some thought into this, a lot more than we were thinking they did.
Like, the original Sogo, without friends to share the adventure with, probably grew more into the mindset of, like, just collecting the rider's powers to eliminate all potential threats. He probably grew to see riders as the villains themselves because their mere existence caused problems, leading him to become Omazio and wiping out all riders. So, Schwartz has a little flashback to that fateful day of the bus incident, where we see, like, all the families getting on the bus with their kids. Even Tsukuyomi gets on the bus. The bus driver is a particular passing through bus driver. And then Schwartz himself gets on. And as the bus is in motion, Schwartz gets up and starts making a speech to, like, all the kids, saying that they're all candidates for being the future king of time. In other words, he intends to crash the bus and kill everyone and see who survives. And like we were saying last week, where Tsukuyomi was probably shooting at someone behind Sogo, probably Schwartz, that is exactly what happened. Sogo was actually like attacking Schwartz, like wondering what he was doing to their parents, and Tsukuyomi was trying to shoot him. Schwartz causes the bus crash, and Kadoya Tsukasa, the bus driver, pulls him and Tsukuyomi out just before the collision. Although I thought that the show had said there were only 2 survivors, Sogo and Hiryu. What we see next is that there are about 8 kids that actually survived. So far, at least. And they witness the Doomsday event that is reminiscent of a particular dream Sogo has foretold, wherein he first believed he was born to be king. So now we know that the guy in the dream was Schwartz, and that it wasn't just a dream.
I recall somebody actually bringing up that theory. I don't remember who, but yeah, that's
same here. Somebody said it might have been Schwartz, as we were like going through potential.
Maybe it was me. I don't know.
It might have been you. We were going through potential candidates, and somebody definitely said Schwartz was on the list.
Yeah, but that's pretty crazy. So basically, Schwartz wanted to create an Omazio type king, and I guess succeeded. And now he's trying to change that.
He succeeded in the way those scientists succeeded in creating Mewtwo. Experiment success. We're all dead.
Fair enough. Yeah. It still doesn't explain the giant robots, though. Explain the freaking giant robots.
I can attempt that. And it would be the explanation for why there are more that are alive right now, more kids that are alive now than we were told survived. while this, yes, would be his flashback to the dream and all that, Schwartz, I have a feeling, took them outside of that time frame.
Oh, he definitely like pulled them into the future to show them Oma Day.
Right. So I'm officially going to be, or my official viewpoint is he did this. This is where the other people die, the other kids die, or they end up dying because of the time travel, wibbly wobbly, what the fuck ever. And this was done just so he could figure out which of the kids would be Omazio.
But we still don't know how. And that's the question that we need answered next week. Why was Sogo the winner here? Why did Hiryu also get out alive if they were the only two survivors of the crash? Like, something happens here that we haven't been shown yet, and it's kind of scary to think about.
Actually, I kind of have a small theory on that. And I think we've already seen what it was. The reaction of both Sugo and Hiryu while on the bus. We had Hiryu, who was, what the fuck, Mom, Dad, what the fuck? Where Sugo went, you're an asshole. I think it's more the proactivity on Sugo's part.
So while most of those boys were pissing their pants, the two that didn't, and actually like took a look at what was happening, and then, those were the ones who stood out.
Right, and then between the two of them, Sugo reacted more. He took it to that step further of, yeah, no, this has to stop. You're the one causing it, so you need to stop this. And I think that's why Schwartz did the whole you will be the king who's, causes this.
And where did Tsukuyomi and Decade end up? The same place that those kids are. Just like on the building to the left. In essence, Tsukuyomi is about to witness the moment where Sogo is told he is to become the king.
Yeah, and of course there's some rubble in the way, so she can't stop it. Pretty crazy. I'm still wondering what Decade's plan is, since he clearly didn't stop.
I think this is his new plan, because before he tried getting through to Sogo, like, hey, you're a bad person. Look at what you do to the future. And Sogo said, I'm not going to do that to the future, though. It's like, it is the future of what happens. So now I think he's trying to like get a better read on why Sogo becomes Omazio. The same thing we've been doing. I think he's here investigating. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's made a few trips to the world of Omazio to see more in depth the circumstances that led Sogo to becoming the Demon King.
Like, that would make sense. I mean, it would also give a good answer for where the fuck he's been.
Timeline hopping.
Because no one, well, I would say no one, but almost nobody does it better than Decade.
In fact, the characters on this show have tried doing it and failed.
Yeah, we're just going to stick with the characters in the show. But it gives a good explanation for where he's been and why he kind of like washed his hands of it all at the last fight. I've got to go figure shit out.
Like, this isn't right. I'm missing a piece to the puzzle.
It's like, and then the explanation for him being in the past is very simple. Well, he got the information from the future that Tsukiyomi was on the bus. So he went back, yeah, no, we need to go figure out what that was about.
Hey, that bus instance is where something happened. It's where Sogo's parents died. He says he has a dream of becoming king after that, right? What happened? What prompted Sogo to want to become king? And just that simple mindset puts him on that bus. So, back to the present.
Real quick. I just want to point out. While I understand that the whole setup for this was designed to let the older people know, but the fact that they tried to hide that Decade was the bus driver, yet still show his goddamn camera, I think is hilarious. Like, I know that was just done to get all of the older generation who are watching this to go, "Ooh, he's back," which is basically what the fuck we did. You know, so that way the kids are sitting there and going, you know, next to, you know, their parents going, "What the hell? Why are you so excited, Dad?"
Just a passing through bus driver. Also, he's a bus driver. I can't remember who I was talking to about it. I think it was off podcast. They were talking about the idea that during his show, like whenever he went to a different world, he would get like a job in that world. Like it would be assigned to him. I think I was talking to Grit about this, where it's possible that he's gotten to the point where he can actually control what role he gets in the worlds he enters. Like he chose to be that bus driver rather than just conveniently getting it because it's what he wanted. Alright. So back in the present. Since diplomacy has failed and can't beat Gaze as he is, he went through all that trouble of stealing White Waz's Mirai watch. And now he confronts Gaze again, but this time as a Kamen Rider himself. He is now Kamen Rider Waz.
Speaking of, am I the only one who's slightly disappointed that they didn't change the color scheme of the outfit?
Yeah, no, I am kind of disappointed. It is the exact same outfit.
I half expected it to just be like black with the neon green. To, you know, White Waz, Black Waz. I'm like, that would have been perfect. I get funding and having to reuse this, having to still use the white suit still, but I'm like,
and it's the same watch, so there's literally no reason for the suit to be different. It feels like it should have been, though.
Right. I mean, that's my thing. It's like, I get why it's the same watch, because it's the same watch, same belt. But
there's literally no reason for the suit to be different, but we want it to be different.
Yes, this is simply just a nitpick.
Yeah, I would have been fine with them just changing the voiceover like they did with Mirror Zi-O or whatever. But no, it was still super awesome watching him henshin and the suit form on him. So satisfying.
And he's done plenty of announcements for Sogo, but this time he does one for himself. Reader of the past and the future, the prophet who will write the proper timeline, and his name is Kamen Rider Waz. This is the first page of a new history. Episode end. So, go ahead.
Looking back on this, I understand the reason why this wasn't a thing, but I now know something else I kind of wanted.
What's up?
I would have enjoyed Sugo giving that speech.
No.
Just have Sugo just pop up out of nowhere and not even deliver it good, because obviously Sugo doesn't do this kind of thing.
Absolutely butcher it because he had no time to prepare, and have Waz actually be like notably embarrassed by it, but trying to be supportive of his king.
Yes, that would have been fantastic.
And Sugo's like all proud of himself. Oh. So, this is a fantastic moment. Not just that the Waz we like became a rider, but what this means for the show. Because up down now, there have been 2 timelines. The Omazio timeline and the Gaze Revive timeline. Which existed without White Waz's interference, as I've explained. This is what White Waz's interference changes. This is the point where his interference is going to create a new timeline. This version of Kamen Rider Waz shouldn't exist, and now it does. And now something new is going to happen. I believe this is the point where we're going to enter a 3rd timeline. Like, the official branch is Omade, but this is like the catalyst.
So what color Waz will it be?
I like blue.
and let it be Sugo. Because it would make sense.
Alright. Decade, anything?
Not really. I enjoyed Waz fighting earlier in the episode. I didn't really get to talk about that, but he used his little book powers, but he still failed. It's still fun to watch, though.
So, while Decade had literally nothing to do with anything that went on, aside from saving Tsukiyomi, the fact that Decade showed back up and the series got good again, while complete coincidence, while it is actually complete coincidence.
Yeah, it is. That's what a coincidence is.
It's funny because it's perfectly timed. Now, like I've said on the several podcasts that I've been on for Zi-O, because I haven't been on a lot of them for personal issues, this series has been kind of a replay of a one-hit wonder. Then that's not to say Decade was a wonder. It was... A lot of what we got was basically a rehash of an old idea, just done really badly. And it didn't seem to be going anywhere. And then they introduced White Waz, and it still didn't seem to be going anywhere.
Like, I was telling Vashi about it back during, like, the early days of this particular arc, where if all I'm getting out of this show is not, like, nostalgic enjoyment, I grow bored when they try to do their own thing. Especially when their own thing pitches ideas for better shows I'd rather be watching. Kamen Rider Shinobi. But at this point, they've turned that around on me, and I'm actually fully invested in what's happening.
Like, and it's wonderful. It's like, because, like you said, it's like, I was more interested in the spinoff coming up. I didn't really care other than seeing what the power-up suits look like, and in the case of some of them, I'm highly disappointed. And then seeing the veteran actor, that's really all I've cared about for Zi-O up until now. It took literally one episode for me to go, yeah, I'm in. And the fact that it took 26 episodes for that to happen is, to me, is problematic.
Right. It's like the first half of the show is really rough to watch on a first run through when you have a bit of a critical eye for these kinds of stories. I'm sure that after with knowing what we know now and what we're going to learn later on in the show, I'm sure that rewatching it, the first half will be a lot better because you might be able to like see the development that we hadn't noticed before. Like Sogo's personality being affected by having friends that we didn't realize he literally didn't have.
Like, and for me personally, the issue that I have with this is, aside from the fact that if I was not doing this podcast, I would have gave up on the show. The last time I was this uninterested in a tokusatsu show was Ninja. And what a giant bag of ass that was. The point where
these were written by the same person.
Right, but we're also getting to the point where he can actually think through ideas. It didn't seem like it at first, but obviously with the way these last 2 episodes and the way it changes everything that we've sat through, or parts of what we sat through, it shows that he is a good writer. It didn't work for a first watch through.
The problem with Ninja is that up to that point, the lead writer wrote filler episodes and maybe short arcs for other shows as a secondary writer. So Ninja was his first full-fledged project, wherein he didn't have much experience writing full story arcs to carry through the entire show. And it was easy to see that watching the show itself, from what I hear.
Extremely.
Then that same person wrote Go Rider, a short 3-episode series that we really like. It's really good. And it shows that, like, yes, he can work really well with ideas if he has time to think them through. The problem with going back to doing another full-length series like Zi-O was that it just took him a long time to really get into the story.
Because, like, usually with most of these shows, as anybody who watches this stuff knows, most of these take about 10 episodes to fully settle into a pace. That gets us past the world building, the character introductions, primary character introductions, and, for lack of a better term, the rules of the world. This took 27 episodes, and we're 26 episodes, and we still don't have any rules for anything yet.
Xaid, like, episode 10 or 11 killed off its best character and established who the ultimate bad guy in the show was. Build, after 10 episodes in, gave you that, like, kick a reveal of, like, who the true villain was and set the tone for the show going forward. Zi-O, 10 episodes in, I can't even remember because I don't think it was that significant. I think it actually took longer than that before White Waz showed up and started changing things.
Right, and to me, it's too long of a setup. Which, obviously, we all felt that way because it took too long to set up. And it just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. Whereas now it actually feels like it's a payoff.
Like, for a while, it seemed like they were just going to keep referencing older shows and not do much of their own thing. But then they started doing their own thing, and we kind of weren't into it at first. And 26 to 27 episodes in, we're in. We're like, all right, you have something here for your own unique story. And now we want to know more about it. I'm not ashamed to admit that for a while I was only watching Zi-O because, hey, it's Rider each week. Whereas now I'm actually looking forward to new episodes of Zi-O because they're doing some really cool stuff now.
And that's how I feel too. It's like, because up until this, it was literally, I don't give a fuck. It was literally, I was watching it so I could, if I was able to get to the podcast, I could be on the podcast. Beyond that, I had no interest in the show, and now I do. And I'm actually very interested in where this will lead up to. Also, a slight correction, it was episode 12 for Exide.
Close.
Yeah, because it was a Christmas episode.
Right.
But in terms of like Zi-O's, like I'm now actually interested in where this is going, because it looks like it actually has a clear defined goal now. Well, we don't know what that is. It now looks like it has direction beyond. Oh look, we got this guy back, which is phenomenal and actually makes me very interested to see where all this is headed.
Alright. So, final thoughts on this episode. This is a fantastic episode that shows a lot of potential for this series going forward. It sets up a lot of good character development for Sogo, for Gaze, for both Wazes, for Uru. Like, even the next episode preview shows that, like, hey, things are gonna start picking up pace here. I look forward to seeing what comes.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. Just overall, I like that it doesn't necessarily feel like we're getting like one-parters, two-parters and like one-off episodes. It's starting to feel like we're getting one single plot that's being played out, especially with the trailer for next episode. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited too, because, and like you guys said, it just seemed like a giant one-off for everything up until this point. And in hindsight, we see the character development and all that now. So seeing that this is starting to kind of coalesce into one specific path and not just be a bunch of one-offs and very little movement towards the story, which in certain aspects can be really, really good. Just go watch Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger. This, having it coalesce into a concise trail or path, the show's starting to finally feel like a show rather than just an homage. And
it's very Go on.
It's like, and I can't wait to see where it actually goes, and hopefully the 27 episodes it took us to get to this point weren't wasted.
It's very similar to what I was telling you about Blade, where the first arc, Tachibana comes off as a very whiny character because you don't see him at his prime. You see him like when he's already halfway down the hill he's falling down. But then when that arc ends, you do see him at his prime again, and retroactively you can understand what he was going through in the first arc a lot better, which improves that arc for viewing.
Right, because that first arc sucked the first time I sat through it. But sitting through it and then getting to the end of the story, and then everything made sense.
Yeah. I was not really into Blade at first because of that, but then once I got over that hump, like, my biggest problem with the show had been taken care of, and I was fully invested. And so when I rewatched it for to do the podcast with you, I was like, oh yeah, this is a lot easier to swallow now that I have context. Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with Power Rangers Beast Morphers. It's great to be watching Power Rangers again. And then Tuesday for more Ryu Soldier. See you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you all for listening, and we will see you back tomorrow and then subsequently next week.